welcome back to the Brunch Beauty Life podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Connie.
And I'm Ashley, and our social medias should be down at the bottom by now.
You know the drill by now. Follow, like, subscribe, and share.
And yes, so we're here today.
Ooh, y'all have to excuse us. Before we air, we was getting some good laughs in. But for today, we wanted to just take a moment and really back in. You know, we've had some hot and spicy topics over the last couple of weeks. But this time, we want to bring it for the aspiring stylists. Stylists that are just coming into the industry, whether you are just graduating from school or you're thinking about taking that first step to go to school. We want to deliver a message to you.
Yeah. All right. So, what's the message? You can do it.
Well, no, absolutely, you can do it. But so this conversation was actually inspired from conversations earlier in the week. And a lot of people have been coming to us and just asking us, like, hey, you know, what advice do you have for me? I'm just getting started in the industry. And it's so saturated.
Yes.
So we're getting a lot of, oh, well, it's saturated. There's everybody out here is doing what I'm trying to do. Like, what makes me different? Or, like, how do I find my way into the industry? And one thing that we have to say, that doesn't matter. No matter how saturated the industry may be, if it's for you, it's for you. And if you believe it's for you, it will be for you.
Absolutely. I remember it's not so far away from me when I did start in the industry. I was completely nervous. Mm-hmm. I went to CPCC and I was part of the first natural hair care class for certification. And I'm in a room with other amazing women and stylists who've had many more years of experience than I did. I actually couldn't even braid. I could not braid.
Not even a little bit?
Not even a little bit. I could do myself, mm-hmm. but I could not braid someone else's hair. And I didn't really have all that experience. And so I was definitely intimidated, definitely feeling out of reach and being like, what am I here for? Like, what am I doing here? Because everybody here has way more experience and it's just very nerve-wracking. But
what was your reason, considering that you didn't have any experience? What even sparked you to want to go to school for natural hair?
Well, I was experiencing doing hair in some way.
Okay.
Like I was doing a lot of blowouts and things like that for myself and select friends because I was not licensed. And I was like, I'm not going to be liable if something happens to your hair and it's completely messed up. You're not about to sue me. Mm-hmm. And so, but I enjoyed doing it. Okay. Whenever I did do someone's hair, I had a good feeling about it. I felt like I could do that all the time or all day. And I was working in retail a lot. And I was just like, you know, if they close down all retail avenues, what am I going to do? I have a history degree that I've never used and don't plan on using. I'm not teaching nobody's kids. I'm so sorry. I'm not. There are other things you can do with a history degree, but that was probably the primary thing being here at that time in North Carolina. So I just knew I wanted to do something that I was passionate about, that I actually liked doing when I did it. And so I stepped into that space. And natural hair, I'm just going to be honest, to get your license or certification in that, cosmetology is a cool, like, $20,000 and up investment.
Plus.
And like a year plus investment of time.
About good two,
yeah. Mm-hmm. Whereas the natural hair program was, I think it was like 4 months.
Yeah.
And, you know, it wasn't too heavy on the pocket. So I was like, you know, this is a great way for me to get into the industry. Mm-hmm. And I'm investing some time, but not too much time because I also still had a full-time job. And I felt like I could do it.
So my question is, when you decided that you were going to do it, Did you have negative feedback from others?
I didn't really have negative feedback from people going to school. They were all like, "Oh, that's good. You know, Ashley likes to achieve. She's always going to do something." So that was fine. It was the, "Oh, I'm going to quit my job and work there full time."
Okay.
That is where the negative feedback came from.
Well, we'll save that. We'll save that.
And
we'll save that.
it was like the record stopped for my family. It was like, say what now? Like, what
it was cool when you just wanted to do it as a hobby.
Yeah.
But you're talking about like quitting your guaranteed job.
Yes.
So no, absolutely not. No, but I can get that. So for me, going into the industry was a little bit different. I grew up. My mom did hair. My aunts did hair.
So
it was
in your blood.
But I didn't really know that. That wasn't what I thought I was going to do. Actually, how I even got started in doing hair, because I was not the girl that played with Barbies. I didn't want to be in your hair, or anything to that. No, I was not that girl. You came over my house, we was going to play video games. Not Barbies, but video games all day.
What video games? Like Mortal Kombat?
Any of them.
That's my game.
Every system I had it.
And when I play, I'm Katana. But either way.
But when I got started in the industry, I actually learned it was my ticket to be able to have a boyfriend, because I was in middle school. So if my boyfriend had hair and I knew how to do hair, that was our way of spending quality time. But when I got into high school, there was actually I went to school.
So it's the motives, people. It's the motives.
It's the motives. When I was in high school, they had what they call Opportunities Day, and it was a trade school. So you could go to trade school while you were still in high school and pick up a trade. So by the time you graduated, you were either certified or licensed in something. They had cosmetology arts, culinary arts, photography, you name it. If it was a trade, a skill, they had it. And so I went, and my choices was cosmetology and culinary arts. And I got into cosmetology. Now, I will say it wasn't what I thought it was going to be as far as what you learn, because in cosmetology, they have to stick to the curriculum and teach you what you need to know to pass state board. So I wasn't interested in doing the chemicals. I like color, but I didn't care for like relaxers and stuff. I wanted to be able to braid. That was my thing. I didn't want to get sued for putting no third-degree burn in somebody's head, like what happened to me as a teenager. But we're not going to talk about that.
Gosh.
That happened. So going into it, the feedback that I got initially, I can remember, like my dad feeling like, well, no. That's just a hobby. Like doing hair wasn't looked at as being a lucrative career. It was just a hobby. It was just a thing. It wasn't taken seriously. So the feedback that I got on that was like negative. Yeah. But I proved my case. I was like, no, I could be doing this. I could work my way through college. You gotta feed and fuel into the parents, right? Yeah. This is how I could
get the buy-in.
Yeah, get the buy-in, right? And for cosmetology in high school, for the 2 years altogether, it was only $600.
Oh, that was great.
Right. That's unbeatable. $600.
It's
in comparison to if you wait until you get out of school.
Yeah.
Like, I think back then, when you got out of school, I think the cosmetology schools may have been like 10 to 15,000, but as you said recently, like it's 20 plus.
Yeah.
So just taking those steps and then getting into it. But then, as you mentioned before, being intimidated, right? So you go into this industry and you graduate from school and you didn't learn the things that you thought you were going to learn. And then you're taking that step into walking into a salon and wanting to work in this top paced salon. It could be like nerve-wracking.
Yes, it was definitely nerve-wracking. That's how I felt going into Lucky You. Mind you, this is back when we're in the house.
Yeah, we had the little house on the prairie.
Yes. It wasn't the prairie. It was Plaza Midwood. But it was super intimidating because in the house, it was, but versus now at the wonderful Lucky You space.
We went from a 2,000 square foot to like 3-4 bedroom house where we had 2 working rooms for stylists to a 6,000 square foot building.
Yes. And so now it's a main floor, right? But back then, it was not a main floor. It was you were either in a room with Tika or you were in a room with Connie. And so I'm fresh out of school. I can braid now, right? And I can, do some lock retwist and maintenance and things of that nature. And I can do some double strand twists. I'm like, okay, I'm good. And then I get into a room with you, and I'm like, shooketh, okay? Because she's turning out these amazing styles. She's doing it in 2.5 seconds. Actually, maybe just like an hour, hour and a half. She's doing it. And I'm still over here like, did I do this right? And she's like, and I'm like, I'm just on one. Right?
So silly.
And so I was definitely intimidated, but I had to change the narrative. And we talk about that in a previous episode. I changed the narrative of what I was saying. Instead of being intimidated, I took it as a chance of, let me learn. Let me watch her. Let me be in the atmosphere to get that from her. And so I would suggest to new stylists to not necessarily well in that intimidation, acknowledge it, but then see the positive in it. What can I learn from this person? And that also takes a step of being humble. I think as a new stylist, that is probably the key of what's going to get you far in the industry is your ability to be humble and to make sure that you're grasping and learning the things that someone else has to teach you and that you don't know everything. Because I think it's different, maybe you can agree, with when you started and when I started versus now, because I feel like social media gives people a platform, which is great, but then it also gives them a false reality. So if they have like all these followers that they may have bought, and it then clouds them into thinking that they're actually better than what they are offering. But there's more to being a great stylist and who's following you or just one nice picture. It's a whole lot of things. There's time management, there's, skill set, there's product knowledge. So I really feel that as a new stylist, you need to come in humble, ready to learn from an OG.
So spinning off of that, that's one thing that I admire about you, right? Because you took that initiative leaving out of school to go and be mentored. A lot of people want to skip that step. A lot of people want to get out of school and, okay, I'm this big time hairstylist now,
Yes.
and I'm just going to run my own business. And I think that is the number one mistake that a lot of new stylists make going into the industry because you haven't learned anything. You haven't sharpened your skills, or hey, and guess what? You know what? You may already know how to do hair,
Yeah.
but this is a never-ending learning industry. You never
Yes.
stop learning. Back in the day, it was one good way to do a lock retwist. You was going to get the comb twisted, or you was going to use your hands with no comb, clean it up with your fingers or whatnot. Now they got all the crocheting and,
Yes.
and all this interlocking. Like you have to always stay learning. So getting a mentor,
Yes.
listening to what they have to say.
No, yeah, don't just get the mentor, don't listen.
Yeah, don't, I already know that. I already know that.
That's
No,
hustling backwards.
hustling backwards. So getting a mentor that's willing to pour into you. One of the things when I graduated, well, before I could actually graduate high school, which I think, not high school, but cosmetology school while I was in high school, what they did then that I don't see now is you had to have hours, working hours in a salon before you could go take your state board test. Like you had to prove I've done X amount of hours working in a salon. Now you don't have to do that. That step is skipped. It's totally missed and bypassed. And for me, the salon that I worked in two salons. The first salon, it was an interesting experience. They kept me in the back. I felt some type of way. I was in there formulating their colors, teaching them how to braid, but I wasn't actually on the floor. So I just felt kind of stifled. Right. But the second salon, my Miss Shirley, hey, Miss Shirley.
Hey, Miss Shirley.
That is my boss lady. That is my friend. That is my mentor to this day. I could call her and we could just talk. Okay? She poured into me. I went there. I ain't have no clientele. she'll say, I got on the floor, I wiped down the baseboards, I wiped down the bottom, the bases of the chairs. I kept that salon clean, okay? Because I mean,
Okay.
I had to get my hours, and again,
Exactly.
when you gotta get your hours, you just can't. Oh, I ain't got no clients, so I'm gone today. You know, you just can't leave. You
Yes.
have to stay because this person has to write off that you did these hours.
And that also kind of reminds me of when I was Tika Mercer, which is your business partner. She was our instructor, and she offered hours to come at the salon. So other people were like, oh, they need to make hours. I was always like, I don't want to ever have a chance or have an experience where I'm not banking hours. So I'm just like picking up them little hours. I'm picking up them coins. And I would come to your salon and do everything, such as I was cleaning shampoo bottles, refilling the shampoo stations, towels, all these things, and really taking it in. And I will say that that made all the difference, because it's one thing when you're in school and you're on the floor versus actually being on the floor in a salon.
True.
And really seeing what that momentum looks like, seeing what it looks like to actually watch a transaction happen between a stylist and a client, watching to see how they do a consultation. You're not going to fully get all that wonderful information firsthand if you are not actually there.
Right.
And
That's
so I know Tika, she's writing a book one day about her whole experience, but she said that she, in her book, is going to be a chapter about me, and it's called Just Show Up.
Just show
And
up.
I was constantly making sure I showed up. And by showing up, gave me an opportunity, because then Tika then offered me a part-time position when I wasn't even thinking about that. So you have to show up.
Show up for
And you
yourself.
have to really be present and show up even when you have no one. Just like you said, like you don't have clients. I didn't have clients a lot of times. I would just come and stand by and be with you or be with Tika. And what I learned in that moment is, okay, well, one, I'm watching and seeing how she's interacting with her client, how she's doing what she's doing, and how she's making this so efficient and fast. But then I'm also getting to know the client. So what happened with you is that it was so great as a segue into them coming to me when you went on maternity leave. So they were already comfortable with me.
Right.
And I'd already started building somewhat of a relationship. They kind of knew. So when they couldn't come to you or Tika, and y'all were like, well, Ashley's available, they were like, oh, okay, because they knew me. Because I showed up even when there was no one else for me to do personally to really get into make those interactions. So I say definitely for new stylists, show up.
Yeah. Show up. Be consistent.
Yes.
Be reliable. Okay. So many times, and again, it's different now versus then.
Right.
You know, everybody like to say, "Oh, you know, you was traumatized," but I don't look at it like I was traumatized. I feel like my boss lady made me who I am today.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I'm a banging boss, you know, because she taught me how to like work under pressure. You know, if I said, hey, these are the days and the hours I could be here, she held me accountable to that.
Yes.
You know, so I showed up. Even if I didn't have clients, you know, I may have been out there passing out cards because back then there was no social media.
Yes.
Facebook hadn't even came out like that. I don't think I got Facebook until 2007. I started in the industry in 2004, 2005.
I was using Facebook for something else. I wasn't using
You was
it
on
for
MySpace.
business.
That was MySpace.
I was not using it for business purposes.
So you didn't have social media like you do now.
Yeah.
And what I see now with social media for new stylists, right? The focus is, oh, how many likes can I get? How many followers can I get? Like that is the focus instead of focusing in on your craft and building personal relationships, right, with people. And like you said, you don't know how people got those followers. I remember one time I was starstruck because we had a stylist come work in our building, and she had like over 50,000 followers, and I was like, oh my God, like we got like a celebrity in here, right?
Yeah.
But when it boiled down to it, she couldn't pay her rent. So what I learned in that moment was followers don't equal paid.
Yep.
Those are just people that may follow you, whether you bought them, gain them, however, but that don't mean that
That's money in the door.
that's money in the door. Meanwhile, I had maybe at that time less than 4,000 followers, but I'm booked for the rest of the year.
Yep.
So it was like a little revelation in my mind. Like, yes, social media is a good platform to put your work out there so people can see, because people do need to see what can you do,
Yes.
right? That's your foot, but don't get so caught up on the social media hype is what I would say. Don't get caught up on the social media hype.
Don't believe the hype either.
Yes. So outside of getting a mentor, being open and willing and ready to receive that information, Ashley said, show up for yourself. That is biggest key. Channel negative energy differently. So like you
Yes.
said, with intimidation, you had to channel it differently so that you could open yourself up to learn. I think that is a brilliant thing to be able to do when you can do it.
Yeah, it's a form of, just like you were talking earlier about, like, self-sabotage.
Right.
And if you were to allow the intimidation to get to you, the intimidation is like, oh my God, I'm not even on these people's level. I'm not able to do that. And then you can start self-sabotaging yourself out of what could be an amazing experience and blessing for you.
Or showing up. So going back to showing up and being available and dependable, reliable, and all of that stuff. I see it all the time. You have a stylist that'll say, oh, I want to make more money. I want to make more money. But then you're not here.
Yes.
How can you make more money if you are not showing up? How can you make more money if you're constantly closing out your schedule for the day? How can you make more money if by 12 you're like, oh, okay, well, I don't have anybody on my schedule for today. I'm going to go ahead and cut out. Because you know what happens after 12? The phone may start ringing.
Yeah.
And now you're not here to catch it. But whoever is here is going to catch it.
And that would be me. I'd be catching them all like Pokemon.
Yep. Because
I'll do it. I'll do the consultation. I'll
Right.
do this. And, they might not have even book with me, but I was like, I'll do it. I'm
right.
here.
I'm available.
Yeah.
The available stylist that's there is not going to pass that off to you unless they may not have anything. Then it might get passed on. But when that phone rings, somebody walking, it's first dibs. If somebody walking, I'm not calling you back like, hey, somebody walked in. Can you come back to the shop? No, we're going to see who is here, and that's who's going to get it.
And then also, when I would show up, regardless of what the situation was, even if y'all were doing a consultation and you couldn't take them, you would be like, oh, well, here. Ashley's here. She's available. She can do this and this and that and the third. So showing up is not just about even who may walk through the door, but who may walk through the door for someone else that they now can put on your books. So you have to be present. And you cannot sabotage yourself in that way by not coming in and getting what you need to get.
Excuses.
Closed mouths don't get fed, and faith without work is dead.
Ooh, say it again.
Closed mouths don't get fed, and faith without work is dead.
I love that.
So you have to be there, show up, speak up for yourself, claim and gather what you feel as though you should have. And also, you cannot expect to just have faith and be like, oh, it's going to build. Clients are going to come. No, you have to be there and you have to work it and make it happen.
Yeah.
You cannot just hope on a wing and a prayer and think it's going to work.
Right. And I'm old fashioned. And that's something I see that's different with now versus then. Because again, back then it wasn't no social media. It was nothing. You built your clientele based off word of mouth, who you met. I could be at the stoplight, and if I looked over and you had some locks, can I give you a card at this red light? I would get out the car and give you a card. My boss lady used to take us to the campus. She used to take us down to VSU, and you couldn't park on campus. So she would drive, and me and my best friend Whitney, we'd be right there in the back seat. I'm on the left, she on the right. You know what I'm saying? And she driving through. We see someone, we hopping out the car, running up to people. They probably like these girls are crazy. But that's what we did. Like I can remember the very first time she took me to the mall to do networking. And she was like, go get that lady a car. I was like, what am I supposed to say to her? Now that still exists today.
Yeah.
The learning of what to say to a person. And that's why it's such a great idea to get a mentor. because
Yes.
then you can learn these things, right? You can, so it's basically, I'm gonna hold your hand for a little bit. You know, I'm gonna teach you how to do this. We're gonna walk together and we're gonna talk together. I'm gonna lead and you're gonna follow.
Yeah.
And then I gotta let you loose because you gotta spread them wings and fly.
Exactly, which I do feel is what you and Tika did for me. And it's super important, don't forget as a new stylist or someone new to the industry, the importance of actually going out there, networking, and putting the feet to the pavement.
Mhm.
You have to go out there and do that. When I was starting out, I would go and walk the mall and I would pass out cards. I had my name written on them already on the back.
Mhm.
And I still do that even with my business now.
Mhm.
So, like, I order a lot of Postmates, guys. So, my birthday's coming up in December. You want to get me something? But when my Postmates person delivers my food, depending upon their hair, I am giving them a card.
Mhm.
I'm like, hey, who does your hair? Do you have someone? They're like, oh, you guys do locks and this and that. I'm like, oh, absolutely. And I give them a card.
Mhm.
I'm still giving out my card regardless. It doesn't matter what my books look like at this time. I'm still making sure that I'm generating not just for myself, but for my team.
Mhm. Yes. Oh, look the part.
Mm,
Okay.
that's true.
As a aspiring stylist or anyone in the beauty industry, look the part. Be the role that you want to play. Okay?
Mm.
So if you see yourself as this banging hairstylist, you the bomb.com. I don't care if you're not there yet. You okay, I don't care if you are not there yet. It's about being there mentally before you actually arrive at that destination. You have to already see yourself at the end before you get there. Okay?
Yeah.
So when I say look the part, if you want to be a banging hairstylist, when you go out, make sure you on point.
Yes.
You know, I would say all the time, and it's never to offend anyone. If you gave you a card, would you come to you? You
And
know?
it's true.
So if and I'm not saying you got to walk out the house every day and look flawless, right?
Yeah.
But you want to walk out the house and be presentable. You want to be,
Mm-hmm.
your best.
Yes. And if hair is your calling, your hair needs to be done.
Absolutely. Because if my hair has all types of chemical damage, breakage, and it's just, looking all over the place, and I hand somebody a card, the first thing they doing is looking at my hair.
Yeah.
And if my hair doesn't look good or appealing to them, then they might be like, oh, okay, thanks. Yeah.
Girl, did you
Right?
see your hair?
Right. That's
She
just like
want to do
if
mine.
that's just like if you are wanting to be a makeup artist, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're gonna have to learn the foundational tricks and the concealer and stuff because if your makeup is,
Not blended well. And
if it's not blended well and you passing out your car and say, hey, I'm a makeup artist, first thing they're doing is looking at your makeup. If your
yeah.
makeup is not blending well, it's not flawless, they're like, well, if you can't blend your own makeup, how you going to blend mine?
Yes.
I mean, that's the mindset of people. So, look the part. Be presentable. Be your best. Always ask yourself, if I gave myself a card, would I take it?
That's a great one. Yes.
And it's never, like I said, it's never to offend anyone because we've had stylists in the past, get offended. It's not about being offended. It's about learning. We're trying to help you get the clientele that you want.
But like I
If
said,
you
I've
want
worked
to,
in retail a lot.
yeah.
So you have to wear the clothes,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because how are you going to sell something that you don't even wear?
Mm-hmm.
So it's in the same right that we'll do that for other companies. But what about doing it for yourself and your business and what you're trying to do? If that company is requiring you that if you work at Belk's that you must have on this, or if you work at the Clinique counter, then you must also be using the Clinique products and, at least showing how the foundation is being used, then why then in salon business would you not have your hair done if you are a hairstylist trying to build clientele?
Mm-hmm.
You know, same way.
Yeah, exactly. I remember Miss Shirley used to say, well, when I started working in Miss Shirley's salon, I had a relaxer. I had it
The
faded in the
creamy
back.
back.
I had it faded in the back. Had my spikes on tight. You couldn't tell me nothing. And she was like, "I know you're not coming up in here wanting to work with them 2 sticks of dynamite in your head." She was like, "You over here rocking the cream and crack." She was like, "How you going?" She was like, "This is a natural hair salon. Natural. We don't do no chemicals. We don't do no relaxers. The only chemical we did do was color. But
Yes.
as far as like relaxers." She was so natural, we didn't even straighten out the hair. It was no blowouts in her hair salon. And so she's like, how are you going to gain a natural hair clientele and you got 2 sticks of dynamite in your head? You don't even know what it's like to be natural. You don't even know your own hair texture. And I was just like, whatever, Miss Shirley. So I was like, okay. So, I had a couple of clients that wanted to transition. So we actually did it together as a
That's
journey.
awesome.
Now, I grew my hair out and I know I had at least a strong 4 inches of new growth. And it was time for to do the big chop. And Miss Shirley butchered me to a TWA, y'all. I couldn't even grip it. It was just enough to put in a little coil, single twist, not a finger coil because it wasn't long enough to use my finger. It was just a little
She
comb.
said that she was trying to make sure you committed.
and see, now in the salons, the mirrors are in front of your client. So as you're working, the client can look at themselves in the mirror. Back then, the mirrors was behind the client, so the client couldn't see what you was doing. So when she spun me around, and I looked at myself, I was like, I can't go to school like this. Cause mind you, I'm still in high school at the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't go to school looking like this. Oh my God. I went home. I went right past my mom, went in the room, closed the door. I'm like, I can't go to school like this. I had a whole anxiety meltdown. But I went to school the next day. I got me some earrings,
Exactly.
try to do a little bit to the face. And I got so many compliments. And that week was the first week that I had made the most money working in her salon.
Wow.
I had been there for a couple of months, but it was that week that I made the first, my first big check. And it was like, dang, I should have been cut my hair off those days. So
But yes, I bet it was so cute.
it was.
You can rock any style.
It was, but
don't be afraid of change. That's what I'm getting from that message is to change and be what's best for your business. Because if you're, like you said, Shirley was saying, if you're doing natural hair, but you have a chemical in your hair, then you don't know what it's like in being able to relate to your client. So whatever you're trying to do, make sure that you are a number one proponent of that. That you are what I like to call the subject matter champion.
All right.
Yes.
I like that, subject matter champion.
Yes, I'm the champion of the subject matter. You have to really get into it, but don't be afraid to do that, and don't be afraid to take that chance. But just like you said, you took that chance, and it opened up your pockets completely
in ways that I couldn't imagine. Yes, hallelujah. And going back to just reel back in for self-sabotage, right? Whether we experience, usually self-sabotage comes within because we're unsure, we're scared, and we say we want these things, but then we do everything in our power not to get these things.
Yes.
So when we're having those moments, it's important to be aware.
Yes.
Am I contradict? I want a full clientele, but you know what? I'm gonna cut out every day at 12. Are you getting what you want, or are you contradicting what you're asking for?
Yeah.
So being aware of that. I think too, one thing we didn't mention is just surrounding yourself with positivity. If it's not coming from your inner circle of friends, get you a new circle of friends.
Yes.
Listen to some positive motivation talks. That's it. They have the podcast for that, or it might be in your mentor. Surround yourself with positive speaking people. Because not everybody is going to support your dream. Not everybody is going to support your vision. There's just some people they're just not.
Yeah, one of my good friends, Troy, when I was transitioning into working full time at the salon and really going into this experience, he made fun of me because I was the one that was cutting out from the group then. Like, I was like, oh, y'all having a party? What night is that? Yeah, I'm not going. I'm not going to be able to make it. Or I'm like, I got myself on a time frame. I'm going home now, you know. And he would make fun of me like, "Oh, we know Ashley gonna leave, or we know this and that." But he told me one time, he was like, "You know, I should have been with you in that space because here you are, and now all the things that are happening for you is because you had to cut out and really have that discipline for what you're doing, and you didn't allow us to dictate how things were going to move for you. You didn't let us set you back. You were like, okay, yeah, y'all can, if y'all can go out on this night, that's fine. I'm not going because I have to be at the salon at this and this and that." And I was the one really kind of cutting myself out. It's not that I need to change my circle. I just kind of fell back from the circle because I had a goal and I had things in mind that I wanted to achieve. So don't be afraid to, again, like get a new circle or even fall a little back from the circle because it takes a lot to really, when you are trying to start something new, you have to be focused.
Yeah.
And you have to put your energy and your time and your drive into what you're trying to do. If you don't, there will be people around you that will continue to let you put you in positions that are not going to put you in your best life for what you're trying to show up and show out for.
They're going to put you in positions that's not in alignment with where you're trying to go.
Yeah.
It's like a setback. It's going to kind of keep pushing you back.
Yeah, you can't say you want to, you know, develop and build this clientele and then be out on Thursday night till 3 a.m.
I mean, you could. I mean,
if you got it like
that. I mean, you could because, you know, back in my day, I was team no excuse, okay? Me and my homegirl on a Friday night, we would leave, we'd go out. My first client was 4 a.m. on Saturday morning. At 3 a.m., I was leaving the club. I was calling my 4 a.m. client like, "Hey, I'm making sure you up. You know, I'm making sure you up and getting ready. This is your wake-up call." And they was like, "Yep, I'm up getting ready." I would go home, shower, get myself together, and go straight to work. Team no sleep. At the salon, 4 a.m. Client on the hour, every hour.
Well, we see what happened to me this morning.
But,
so we know that I did not have the capabilities.
All we're saying is,
for that. Know your capabilities and play to your strengths. She could be team no sleep. I am team need to sleep. I need to sleep. I need to rest. I have to get it. And I ain't got it like that.
Whatever the decision, whatever you do, be accountable for your actions.
Yes.
So, and again, this goes back to being dependable and reliable. If you got these clients, they're dependent on you. They're relying on you. Yes. So if you're going to party hard the night before, make sure you can show up for them and show up and deliver. Yes. Don't just show up and give them slack and not quality work. You need to show up and be on point. Yes. If you can't do that, go get team sleep. But, you know, if you could do that, you could be on team no sleep. You know, you just have to know yourself. And that's one thing I will always say. I've always, and my clientele to the day, they know if they got an appointment with me, they know they are getting their hair done. I don't make no excuses. I would figure it out a way to get to work. You know, oh, my car's not working. My car's broke down. I've had that happen. I let my hey, I'm going to be a few minutes late. This is what's going on. I figured out another alternative to get to the salon. Not coming is not an option unless it is a dire, true emergency. So I always show up. So show up.
There was a time my car actually, my battery died, and I walked to the salon.
I do remember that. Now, mind you, she was in very close walking distance. You know, we're not saying that she
It was a 5-minute drive, so it's like a 10-minute walk. But I walked myself right there. I said, "Hey, could you let my client know I'm coming? I'm on my way. My battery died, and I'm going to get there." So I did what I had to do. I walked there. You have to be willing to put in that energy and that effort and that work. But also, I would say another good point to think about is what are you willing to sacrifice to get where you want to go? Because I feel what I see in this industry a lot is that a lot of people they're not sacrificing. And it takes a lot of sacrifice. Like you said, we said in an earlier episode, you were like, "Oh, you know we worked you hard." Yes, I did. You did work me hard. I worked hard. I worked long hours, but I was willing to sacrifice in that short term of what that is going to be for me right now for the long-term goal. So today I'm going to work all day long. I'm going to be there from sun up to sundown. But guess what? I don't have to do that now. I don't have to do that now.
That is a whole nother topic. That is a whole nother
I
topic.
don't have to do it. Whereas back then, I needed to do it so that I can get to this place where I don't have to. If you're not at a place where you don't have to, then you need to do it. You need to sacrifice. What are you willing to sacrifice? And if you're not really willing to sacrifice, then I think that you need to revamp and rethink and redo.
And I just want to say sometimes, just in closing, for sacrificing, it's not about what you're giving up. Because a lot of people feel like, I don't want to give up this, I don't want to give up this. Look at it like, what are you willing to give up to gain? You know, some people just stop at, I don't want to give this up. And that's where it stops at. But you're doing it to gain. So
Absolutely.
you make sure you add that extra part. What am I giving up to gain? Don't stop at what you're giving up. Because if you stop there, then you're not going to do no sacrificing, because you're just, I don't want to give this up, I don't want to give this up, I don't want to give this up. You're giving up to gain. So.
And what the give up could be that you're not getting as much rest as you usually were. The give up is that you're not hanging out and going out and spending time like you normally were with your friends. But what are you gaining? You're gaining the ability to be able to do that at a later time.
Freedom and flexibility.
Yeah, I can do whatever I want now. And I can actually choose whatever I want to do. You know, that's another thing, is to open yourself up to try new things and see what works and what doesn't work. Don't just quickly be like, oh no, I only do locks. Well, right now, coming in that door is some double strand twists. You gonna get it or no? You know, you have to, sometimes that's a part of the sacrifice. What are you going to sacrifice and do to get to your long-term goal? So now I can say, yeah, I'm not doing kinky twists anymore. But when I started, I was doing a whole bunch of kinky twists. You have to do what you have to do to get that clientele. And actually, some of the clientele from the kinky twists ended up becoming lock clients.
Hello. Wow.
So, you know, what are you willing to sacrifice? Be humble. Show up.
Get a mentor.
And dress for the part that you want.
Dress for success.
Dress for success.
All right. We hope that you got a lot from this. You know, we hope that this has stimulated your mind, made you think about some things, and let us know what you think. Leave us a comment, send us an email, and until next time, make sure you follow, like, subscribe, and share.
All right, we'll see you next time. Brunch Beauty Life Podcast.
Ting.